EQ is a tool that's been used in music for decades and decades at this point. For many of you, it's likely a term you've never heard, and that's okay. But if you're someone who writes music, plays music, or just loves music in general, it's probably something you should know about. Welcome to Music Theories. This is a channel dedicated to all things music, music theory, and music history. This video is a supplement to another video I made about what EQ is. So if you haven't seen that one, make sure you check it out. If you like videos like this one, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. I have lots of other music history videos as well, so I'll link that playlist down below. EQ is short for equalization. In music, this is the process of adjusting specific frequencies to highlight or reduce certain qualities in the overall sound. The purpose of this is to create balance and definition in your listening experience. You may have seen on your car radio, or even some of your music apps, that there are settings where you can adjust the overall EQ of your playback. Usually, these are categorized by genre, sometimes by stereo size and whatnot. So, if you listen to mostly classical, you might select the classical setting in the EQ, and in theory, this should give you the optimal listening experience. These audio adjustments are relatively simple compared to how a sound engineer would use EQ in a studio setting. Recorded music utilizes both digital EQ plugins and analog EQ hardware. More on this in a minute. This technology is used to emphasize or accentuate desirable qualities in an instrument's sound, or to remove any undesirable frequencies, like maybe some buzzing sound that shouldn't be there. This is a way to carve and sculpt your audio into something that's very pleasant to the human ear. In addition to understanding EQ's function, it's beneficial for us to dive into how this technique came to be. After all, in order to really understand something's function, we should look at where it originated, respect the technology, and its impact on popular music. Today, a lot of us know EQ as this digital plugin on our DAW, but this tool may be even older than you think. It surfaces right alongside the radio's rise to fame as early as the 1920s. However, the foundation of this technology preceded even that. In 1899, Michael Pupin, a Serbian physicist and physical chemist, filed a patent for an invention called loading coils. These were intended to improve the sound quality of long-distance phone calls. It's said that the concept was actually conceived by a British man named Oliver Heaviside, who never filed a patent. But that's not what this video is about. It just so happens that an American engineer employed by AT&T, George Ashley Campbell, was developing the same invention. AT&T purchased the patent from Pupin, which allowed for Campbell to spearhead the development of a distance phone using loading coils. This phone was first put into public use in Boston in May of 1900. In 1910, engineer George Ashley Campbell was designing audio filters for optimal sound quality on AT&T telephones. These filters would essentially isolate the frequencies needed to carry out phone conversations and let them pass through, while cutting the frequencies that decreased the quality of the phone call. This whole story is incredibly fascinating, but I'll leave it at this. This was the basis for music EQ a few years down the line. In the 1930s, when sound was added to film, RCA architect and sound engineer John Volkmann was appalled at just how low quality the sound reproduction was. As a result, he came up with the first equalizer specifically designed with variable frequency filters, and designed the first machine to improve sound quality in motion picture playback in theaters. This technology was adopted by the most prominent theaters soon after. Other tech companies, namely Langevin and Cinema Engineering, expanded on this idea for use in Hollywood itself. EQ machines were used in film post-production to refine sound effects and enhance speech. This is where we begin to see slide controls on equalizers. Art Davis's Type 7080 equalizer, manufactured by Cinema Engineering, is often considered the first graphic equalizer, as it featured 6 separate band faders with 8 dB of boost or cut. It wasn't until the 1940s that people started using EQ within music production and playback. By the 1950s, it was a standard practice. In fact, this equalization was a highlighted feature on the world's first commercial vinyl LPs, invented by Peter Goldmark, and marketed as sound in high fidelity. This makes sense when you hear some of the earliest recordings of music. There's a lot of sonic information missing, and therefore they sound a bit muffled. So having audio that was crisp and clear was really appealing to those who loved to play music at home. Les Paul was one of the first well-known folks to use EQ extensively in his recordings. His famous Les Paul squawk is a result of playing around with an equalizer. It can be heard in his popular tune Lover, among others. He achieved this by narrowly boosting around 4,000 Hz. In fact, EQ is a huge piece of some of the most iconic sounds of certain eras. In 1958, an engineer-producer named Bill Putnam launched his own company called Universal Audio. Universal Audio released the first multi-band equalizer, as well as the modern recording console. Putnam's use of EQ is iconic to the sounds of the late 1950s and 60s. Today, Putnam is known as the father of modern recording, though his second wife, Belinda, who was also a mix engineer, played a role in this sound as well. He'll be coming up a lot in this series, so remember that name. Bill was a highly sought-after engineer in general, and the favorite engineer of Frank Sinatra, Nat King Cole, Ray Charles, and more. Sam Phillips, the brains behind Sun Records and Elvis Presley, sent many of his tracks to Bill and Belinda Putnam for mastering as well. We also talked a lot about Motown in a previous video, and the effect of the Motown sound. EQ in the 1960s era was much more precise, and this played a huge role in not only the Motown sound, but in Phil Spector's wall of sound that was known for being full, warm, and rich in character, while each instrument could still be distinctly heard. Spector specifically used the Pultec EQ-P1A to achieve this. You can hear it in action on God Only Knows by the Beach Boys. EQ is also a huge piece of songs like Gimme Shelter by the Rolling Stones and Stairway to Heaven by Led Zeppelin. Graphic EQ came to pass in the 1970s, famously used on the snare in Led Zeppelin's When the Levee Breaks. EQ was also a huge piece of the distinct sound of artists like David Bowie, Talking Heads, Depeche Mode, Madonna, Michael Jackson, and more. Today, digital EQ is wildly popular. This technology emerged as early as the 1990s. It played a significant role on tracks like Waterfalls by TLC, Say My Name by Destiny's Child, Wonderwall by Oasis, and Changes by Tupac. Ironically, many of these digital EQs are trying to replicate the sound of these analog EQs from the early years of tech. In fact, Bill Putnam's sons were at the forefront of digitizing analog sound when they re-established Universal Audio in 1999. They also manufacture reissues of classic Universal Audio hardware. I personally think this is a good thing, but that's a topic for another time. All that said, the cool thing about analog equalizers was that they were made by hand, and none of them were exactly alike. Each machine had its own nuances in terms of sound, and that added a very distinct character to the music of specific studios. Digital replications of analog EQ will never have that same variety. They'll all be exactly the same, which has its pros and cons. But again, that's a topic for another time. I hope you found this video interesting and learned something new. Don't forget to check out the other piece to this video, which I've linked here and down below. This one provides further explanation of EQ's function and includes audio demonstrations as well. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be the first to know when the next Music Theories video comes out.